Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. Today guys, we are going to be diving down into the charts for Vechain, see what's been going on with the price action, see if we're all on track for our 4.3 cent target or whether things have changed any. Now as I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you are going to be kept up to date with all the videos that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, links in the description down below. A fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. We've got a whole dedicated channel specifically for Vechain, so why not go ahead, join. It's completely free, links in the description down below. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Right, let's take a look at what's going on here. So we're going to start things off, guys, with our hourly chart here for Vechain paired up with USDT. We are using Binance as the data source for this, so you can replicate your charts using TradingView and those criteria. So as you can see, we were tracking this ABC move to the downside, right? It seems to be prolonged a little bit here as we start to think about, what's going on and why we've targeted, 4.3 cent. Now, there's a couple of things here that I think are worth noting. Obviously, we have got our lower range targets kind of coming in here between 4.2 and obviously 4.3 cent. Now, obviously, we've got several different targets kind of mapped out, right? And we're all kind of coming down to the same kind of area on the smaller time frame. Now, here we obviously have this ABC move coming down. We're in the B wave high, was up here at about 4.85 cent, and we are looking to come down to about 4.3. That's on the 1-to-1 ratio. I will also note that it's not a guarantee that we come that low. The minimum here might actually just be 4.52, which will basically create a double bottom scenario, completing this C wave just down here. Now, we're getting close to that area, but I do think we have more room to fall down. So we'll just keep that in mind that the minimum requirement would be 4.520 from a technical point of view to complete the waves. However, I think there's a higher probability that we actually are going to come back down a little bit lower. So I'm going to just mark this up as a bit of a pink line there so we know exactly what's going on. Right. So why do I think 4.3? Well, 4.3 is the 1-to-1 ratio with the A and the C wave. But when we break this down a little bit more, we can also acknowledge that we have a wave count just coming inside here as well. We can take this up to the high point, and you can see we come back down here to about 4.469. Okay, an overextension could take us to the 4.3 pretty easily. Okay, so for those who cannot follow the fibs or struggle to kind of see that, I'll just draw the lines on here. We have an A, a B, and a potential C coming down a little bit lower. So again, just bringing us into that range. Now, our hourly stochastic RSI for Vechain is heavily oversold. Okay, so we should be looking for some kind of push upwards, right? We only have to kind of keep in mind that the 4 hourly is not quite oversold yet, and that will support our move down lower. Okay, so we are obviously talking about 4.52 minimum, but potentially 4.393. And as we come up into the 8 hourly chart, you can also see this needs a bit of a correction too to come back aligned to what is going on with the hourly, right? So the macro views are very much needing corrections even here on the daily. Okay, now the weekly and the monthly, they're actually in a really good spot, heavily oversold on the weekly chart, so that's looking pretty good. The monthly chart all the way down here in the oversold as well. So macro view, top level, looking very, very good. A little bit of corrective action required on a daily, 8 hourly, 4 hourly. And then, of course, I think we can be down in this 1 hourly chart, in the oversold, overbought area pretty quickly. I think we can just bounce around here without doing too much price discovery. And that will allow us to correct down towards 4.3. So I do think that 4.3 is probable. And I do think it's going to be the area that we're going to start to see the reversal from. Okay, obviously, I am hopeful that we don't come down this low necessarily, but if we were looking to accumulate, I would be probably looking at anywhere between 4.4 and 4.3 as a good accumulation for a bounce upwards, and then I would expect some kind of ABC move up from there, with all of those time frames actually looking like they are oversold, ready for a push to the upside. Okay, obviously subject to the general market. If Bitcoin decides to completely tank, then we will expect Vechain to also come down with it, right? There's no reason to think otherwise. We've pretty much been following, or Vechain's pretty much been following the price action of Bitcoin, right? And if Bitcoin moves up, Vechain's moved up a little, and if Bitcoin pulls back, Vechain pulls back a little, right? So they are heavily correlated. Now, there's nothing here inside the data that is telling me that Vechain's about to deviate away from that. Coming forward, though, I do think that once we actually start to see Vechain move more to B to C rather than B to B, which is always great to see them with those enterprises around the world. But once they start to launch their VUSD and they start entering into the DeFi space for consumers, I do think that's going to change dramatically what's going on here with Vechain. So if you're not familiar with any of that, do some research on it. Look up the stablecoin on Vechain. Obviously, it's a smart contract platform, so you're going to start seeing a lot of DeFi go on there as well with the stablecoin as a core functionality of that. And they are looking now to kind of branch over into, or more, I guess, branch more over into the B2C side of things. And there are a few very exciting things coming in the near future for Vechain in terms of the ecosystem that's not just your business and enterprise level kind of applications and dApps being built on there. We're actually now going to be looking at some more I guess standard stuff that retail customers would understand, or retail investors would understand a little bit more, a lot more DeFi. There'll be metaverse and stuff like that as well. NFTs thriving on there. So definitely stuff to worth kind of paying attention to when it comes to Vechain, because I think this is going to get a big shock to the system when that DeFi really kicks in for Vechain. So on the smaller timeframes, we are looking, potentially for corrective action. We might find ourselves with a small kind of ABC somewhere to kind of get us down here. But I think ultimately on this slightly larger view, if this was a 4-hourly chart, for example, we can see it's pretty clear that we are kind of tracking on our way down here. We had the ABC up, this is an AB, and then a potential C coming down a little bit lower. So ultimately, that's what we're looking here at the kind of over the next few days. Corrective action down to 4.3 cent. That has not changed. Now, on the larger time frame, if we just come up into our weekly chart, we were, of course, just looking at the standard correction. 3.5 was definitely scoped out. We had the low threshold of 2.2. We wanted to not to cross that level. We wanted structure to be there. We've met the minimum requirements for this ABC move. So if the market starts to wake up and we actually start to go into this next set of waves up, then we should actually be looking pretty progressive and pretty good to go up into new all-time highs for Vechain. We still see here quite comfortably the $1 threshold. That has not changed. If we actually just grab, so as you can see here, we've got the trend-based fib. This is indicating about 120. But if we actually just take a standard Fibonacci retracement tool, you can, of course, see this thing goes out towards the dollar pretty comfortably. And that's not as accurate as I had it the other day, but you get the idea. If we were to come down to that low point, it would be $1.03.7. If we just take the current low, that's 96 cents. So we're right up in that $1 range. There's going to be a heavy resistance up there. So I would not anticipate that lasting all too long. But it's definitely still on the radar here, and it is what we're thinking about in this last little leg of the bull run as things start to wake up again. So ultimately, if we actually just break down this weekly chart before we sign the video off, we can, of course, acknowledge what's going on here from a momentum and price action perspective, right? We use Elliott theory to help us understand the direction of the market and understand, the most probable areas of reversal and things like that. But we can also use the stochastic RSI coupled with Elliott wave theory and, of course, the price action and the candles to understand what's going on with the momentum of the price action, right? So when we actually break down everything that we have here from the lows of March 2020 all the way through to current, well, we were oversold in March 2020. We were overbought at the top here, and this was about August time of 2020. That was an all-time high for Vechain. We then pull back down into the low area of this wave 2, this or wave B, depending on how you want to look at it. And then here, basically, this was like November 2020. We then moved up into new all-time highs. We actually hit this area just here as overbought. We had a small pullback on the stochastic RSI, wiping it out. The momentum for selling just wasn't there. And then we move up into overbought again, as we were just here, hitting the all-time high of about 28 cents. We then pulled down into the oversold area. That is down here at this A wave low. We then bounced up into the B wave high. This again is an overbought area with a small dip in the middle. And now we've pulled all the way down into the oversold area right down here at the low end of this C wave, right? So if we think about where the ends of these corrective moves are, if this is a wave 4, it would be the same scenarios where we were with wave 2, meaning that we are looking for an explosive move to the upside. Now, when we follow Elliott wave theory, Vechain here hasn't actually met the minimum requirements for, I don't know, just check it to make sure. I don't think it met the minimum requirements for the third wave to be classed as impulsive. but it got close. Yeah, it wasn't quite there. So basically, it's following the trend of Bitcoin, which is following these 5 impulsive moves. But in fact, what you end up with is an ABC move up, an ABC move down, and we are thinking of an ABC move upwards, right? So would have a pretty good move, a pullback, and then a third final move upwards for Vechain. So we're looking at something like this to take us in towards that kind of dollar level, right? So the first one might find resistance on the previous all-time high. We'll then have a pullback. Lots of people will think that's it done. And then we'll push up into that final move, that final C wave, right? And that's kind of where things will potentially end here for Vechain. Alternatively, with everything that's going on from a fundamental point of view, it might just end up with an impulsive break, but we'll have to monitor those situations as time progresses. But the main point here that I'm trying to make is we're in a really good position on the macro trend. We are looking for a significant push to the upside, and the data here is suggesting that it is going to be that of quite significant push. It's not going to be a small one on this macro trend line. So ultimately, everything's looking pretty good for Vechain. Do expect some volatility on the smaller time frame though. We are thinking about pulling back down, maybe to that 4.4, 4.3 cent range before we get that reversal and the market waking up and we start to push up into these fantastic highs that I think are only really a few months away now. So guys, I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications. I really do appreciate that. With that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.